it's Carrie again, of course. I have not talked to y'all in a while. So much has happened. I finished the first year of my doctorate. Some other stuff happened that I plan to make a video on, probably my next video. But for now, I want to share with y'all some of my favorites from the first half of 2026. So as y'all know, I am doing my doctorate. I just completed my first year. So I read a lot of academic texts, both monographs and articles. Also some screenings because of the type of area I'm in. I'm in media studies, that is the general field. So the things that I like, broad range. First thing I want to pick up though is this manga. This is just the very first one in the whole series. Smoking Behind the Supermarket with You. It is the only one I have read thus far. It was something I would just pick up, and I chose to read it very slowly because it was something I wanted to pick up in my free time and just enjoy a lighthearted, silly, very silly sort of slice of life story between these two characters. And I'm not gonna spoil it, so I'll just read a little bit from the back. At age 45, office worker Sasaki has had enough of the corporate grind. His only solace is smoking and the friendly smile of supermarket cashier Yamada. And it goes on from there. He is very silly, she's very smart and funny, and I don't know how long they're gonna go keeping up the secret of the story and the puns that they come up with, but I'm enjoying the story, and it's really easy reading, and I do like the art style. Let me see if I can show y'all a page where, maybe somewhere in the beginning. Yeah, just like the first page. Very nice. I was between that one and a horror manga, but I was like, you know, for now let's choose peace. So the second thing I'm gonna pick up is this comic series that I started reading from a different local store in my area called The City Beneath Her Feet. I have the first one and I have the second one. So I have issue 1 and issue 2. They're so different. I really enjoyed it thus far. I love the size of the physical copies. I also love their use of color, very sort of ambitious and also almost sparse use of color, and very specific use of color for different characters. And I mean, that's not like a new thing for this medium, but I was really struck by it when I was reading issue 1, how the introductions to each character's story brought about these different like even just, I don't want to spoil anything, but even just like holding it up real quick, look at those colors, and then one page later, look at the difference. You know what I mean? That follows through the entire arc, through both issues thus far, and I really like that. And so you know what's coming, you know who we're focusing on. It's like when you're watching a TV series, you're watching a movie, maybe character A is entering the scene. There's always a certain sort of motif that follows their entrance and their exit. Character B, a different sort of motif follows their entrance and their exit. The colors and the way that they move across the screen, the same thing is happening with colors and the lines that happens in TV and movies with music. And so I just love the art style, the story. It's like it's so good. I'm having fun. It's very creative and not quite as lighthearted as Smoking Behind the Supermarket with You. As you can see, this is the front cover. This is the back. So not quite as lighthearted, but I am really enjoying myself, and y'all can look into that more if you want to. Okay, and then the third thing I want to bring up is this book that I asked my mom to get me because I knew we would have one back home. It is Medicinal Plants, Plantas Plantas Medicinales. Yes, this is by Michel Gaultier and Andre Exbrayet. And I like to look through this. So first of all, it is in French, English, and Spanish, which are some common languages in the Caribbean. That is where this book is from. And like where a lot of the plants, medicinal plants, are from as well. From as in where they grow now. That may not be their origin, but like you can find them there. And so abscesses, abdominal pains, aches, anxiety, appetite, boils, bruises, burns, chest infections, cholesterols, inflammation, influenza, insomnia, irritability, itching, jaundice, nervous tension, painful gums, just so many things, fungi, sore throat, sprains, stains, stimulating your appetite, stomach pain, sunburn, tightness, tonic. And you can find these different plants that you're looking for, and you can see what form you're supposed to take this plant in. For example, cashew apple. Let's see, cashew apple, cashew fruit, cashew nut tree. Origin, tropical America. Description, small evergreen tree with smooth oval leaves rounded at the tip. The small flowers are reddish and produce a fruit called cashew nut, which hangs from the peduncle of the succulent fruit called cashew apple. Habitat, cultivated, sometimes found wild in dry coastal zones. Flowering, January to March. Propagation, seeds. Medicinal use, diabetes, hypertension, diarrhea, skin problems, tonic, corns and warts, painful gums. Parts used, bark, leaves, caustic oil from the outer part of the nut, the apple. All sorts of stuff like that. It gives you different information. Lots of pictures here. You can see some soursop. There's just so much information in this, and I've sent some information to a friend of mine and my mother as well. And so yes, Plantas Medicinales. I really wanted to get this book because I tried to look for a book similar to it, and unfortunately it was, as they call it, AI slap. So I needed to go back and get the real deal. So the next thing that I've been loving in 2026 is my doctoral everything meeting notebook. So this isn't like notes in class, but just like meetings that I have had ever since January 4th. I didn't have this fall semester, but since January forward. Also, I got this sticker at, you know, I live in Michigan. I got this at Literati Bookstore. If you know, you know. Ever since then, just any meetings I've had. And so I'm gonna keep this book, assuming that it's the same book up until I graduate. All this meeting notes and just my thoughts and how my thoughts have grown about what it is I'm interested in, and how my thoughts have developed, and any research experience I get, any workshops and things like that I attend, it will be in here as well. And so little things from my first time at SCMS, I put them in here afterwards. My recent institute that I attended, I put that in here as well. My doodling. This is from Goat Simulator 3, some notes about that with a game studies scholar. And then, you know, I am the type of neurodivergent where you gotta do something so you pay attention sometimes. So that was my do something, and I liked how it looked, so I saved it so I can remember it. Yes, and I also have little to-do stickies that I put in if I need them. And yes, so I plan to keep this. I put some good notes in here. Take this with me, and I love this notebook. And I'm kind of specific about my pens as well. So if y'all know good pens, please drop them in the comments. So the next thing I love is These headphones, they are Bose Quiet Comfort headphones. The reason I want to talk about these headphones, I got these recently, is because I got these from Back Market, which is a secondhand professional refurbishing online market. And these headphones are great. I really love them. They work perfectly. I am bringing these up because I want to encourage us to shop secondhand for properly refurbished tech, or to do our research if we're using eBay or any other marketplaces like that. You can secondhand shop for things like this. You can secondhand shop for a record player or a CD player or even your phone. I still have my 13 mini. That's what I'm recording this on, actually on my front camera, so hopefully it comes out good because my phone is on its last legs. So I'm probably going to be buying a new phone sooner than later, hopefully on Back Market. And Apple just raised its prices on everything, I think, but the iPhones. So I guess I got to get on that sooner than later. But yes, I want to encourage us to shop secondhand, partially for purposes of saving money. If you are just self-absorbed and your only care is your bottom line, okay. But I also want us to care about our fellow man and the situations of our fellow man a bit, and and climate change, and how we are not all to the same level, but on some level culpable in what is happening in places like the Congo. And if we can shop secondhand for things like this and be okay, which I think many of us can, maybe we should attempt to do so. So I just wanted to put that in here because I think there's a lot of stuff on earth that doesn't necessarily need to be made brand new to be made ours. And so I don't know if I ever said this on YouTube, but I do have this like thing for myself where if I have a specific purchase in mind, I look for it secondhand first before I look for it new. And so doing that has been helpful. There are times where it has not worked out, or there was some times where someone has gifted me something and I'm not going to be like, no, I'm refusing your love and care for me, da da da. But if I am buying something, I look for it secondhand first. This book I want to talk about is called After Mass Media, Storytelling for Micro Audiences in the 21st Century by Amanda D. Lotz, Dr. Lotz. It is about how the business of storytelling through screens has shifted dramatically. So we used to have the blockbuster movies and TV shows like Friends, and they aimed for domestic mass audiences. But today, transnational distribution plays a central role as imagined audiences are now global. So this book is talking about how our idea of the mass audience no longer really exists. And you might think, oh, this is just because of streaming, or it's just Netflix. That's what did it. Sure, that plays a role, and in casual conversation, it almost cannot be overstated, the role that plays. But there are other things that played a role, and this book does a good job of unpacking all the facets that came together to make this moment that is after mass media. And I did have to write a book review for this, and it ended up not going anywhere, so it's kind of just sitting right now. I don't have a journal to give it to right now. I have a different book review that should be coming out, so I could make a video about specifically this book, because I do think it is interesting how a lot of the conversations we have about media are banking on this common understanding of mass media that doesn't really exist anymore, and we're not properly tracing the evolution of narrative technique or of where TV is today, but we're having conversations about TV today. So we're using something from like the year 2005 to talk about something that happened in 2025, but we're not in the same space, and we can't really get to the point because we don't know what we're grappling with. So since I already have the review, I might just talk about it in another video. The end of the description says, after mass media reveals how contemporary industrial dynamics, particularly the decline of traditional distribution models, have far-reaching implications for our understanding of national video cultures. And we can see that happening with casual conversations, even about what kinds of shows get canceled and renewed. I think a quick example right now is that show Boots that was on Netflix versus Heated Rivalry. I saw people talking about how Boots got canceled and Heated Rivalry got renewed. Heated Rivalry is not an American show. It is a Canadian show, and Boots was, from what I understood, a US show. So even this idea of these two shows having the genre gay, which that is not the genre, but we're thinking of the genre being gay, and we're comparing them as if they are the same network because we're watching TV when we watch both of these shows. But they're actually not that comparable, because one is Canadian, one is American, one is Crave, one is Netflix, one has a different genre. I don't know if the genre of Boots would just be a drama. Let me actually look. Boots Netflix show. Yeah, comedy/drama, military comedy drama. Yeah, and Heated Rivalry, romance. So we are talking about, in our casual conversations, shows that are similar in that they use certain types of characters as vehicles for stories, but in actuality, the shows themselves and the way the industry is working behind the scenes with these shows is not the same. This is a production from this country versus this country. The model looks like this. This platform tends to renew these types of shows. This one doesn't. That is also a conversation that can be had with sapphic shows. I will say sapphic shows have a bit of a harder time in general. There is also the difficulty of having that conversation, but then trying to feed in this same Crave versus Netflix versus like AMC or whatever, platform may be conversation as well. And I think a book like After Mass Media helps to clarify how we got into this cluster cuss of a situation in the first place. And it can be read alongside other books that are maybe more specifically about queer television, whether that be this type of queer television, that type of queer television, that type of queer television, and help us understand what we're looking at. And then, also consider that with policies and contemporary everyday understandings and opinions about queer people in these different countries, and how that also changes what is happening with shows. I think that might be what is happening with Interview with the Vampire season 3 / The Vampire Lestat season 1 right now, where Lestat is a bisexual man. And so there is sort of this weird feeling I have when people act like he's all of a sudden straight when he interacts with women. At the same time, I understand what I am seeing on screen is an ease of positioning more explicit sexuality on screen if it can be read heterosexually, even though he is bisexual in actuality. If it can be read heterosexually versus if it is explicitly read as homosexual. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying that he is bisexual regardless. But if the sex scene might be read by someone who is not able to remember in their heads, oh, Lestat is bisexual. If it is read as between him and someone who is perceived as a woman, you might see it more on screen than if it is him and someone who will make the scene be read explicitly as homosexual. So that tells us that perhaps between the first season of Interview with the Vampire and this third season of Interview with the Vampire, there has been some sort of national cultural change. I would say regression, but we can say change that has led to the platform that produces and funds Interview with the Vampire / The Vampire Lestat to have a sort of reluctance and increased conservatism around how they display intimacy, romanticism, and bodies on screen. All that to say, yes, I am a media scholar, Black scholar, from undergrad. Queer scholar, this, that, and the other scholar. Love TV, as you can tell. So that's all I got to say on that. Speaking of TV and movies, I watched the movie Cell this year. I watched it on Tubi. I decided I was just gonna choose a movie. The movie Cell popped up. I was like, okay, we're gonna watch it. It's one of my faves because it was bad. Sometimes you need a middling movie. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you need to watch something that was so middling that you can't forget it. And this is that for me. Because I just didn't expect to see Samuel L. Jackson be the Metro driver. I just didn't know he was gonna be in it. Like I clicked it so fast I didn't even see his name like pop up. I just was like, okay, first movie, boom. Why was he driving a bus? How did that happen? This movie is based on a Stephen King novel. It came out in 2016. It's directed by Todd Williams. It stars John Cusack, Samuel L. Jackson, and Isabel Fuhrman. They did their best with what they had. It's just, I'd be really interested to know if people, I don't know if this came out in theaters, but I'd be really interested to know if it did come out in theaters, if people paid to go see it. Because I would have wanted my $10 back if I had, low-key. But if I'd been there with friends, we would have been giggling a bit. So it's like the premise, like if I read this as a comic, like one of these comics I showed you, I actually see how I would have been entranced with it, like truly entranced with it. But something about, I don't know if it was, something about it was just not the best it could have been. It was just so middling. And when it was done, I went to go see what people thought of it at the time, and like it did get a very middling score. It actually got lower than a middling score. Apparently I was being generous with my middling score. And it's like the cell phones are emitting this frequency and it's turning the people into zombies. And this guy's trying to get back to his family. He's estranged from his family, but he wants to get back to his son and to see if his the mother of his son is also okay. And he meets the, oh my gosh, I don't want to give the whole thing away, but like he teams up with Samuel L. Cusack teams up with Samuel L. Jackson, who was driving the Metro train. This is Keke Palmer. And they leave, and there's this other guy, and they meet up with the, I don't want to spoil it, but they meet up with other people. You know, things happen as they do when people turn into zombies. It was so mid that it made its way into my top movies of the year. I don't want to spoil it because like I want y'all to go watch it so you can understand like what I'm getting at. That it was so mid that I just couldn't turn it off. You know what I mean? Like you just watch this at home and you're like, I could turn this off and watch a movie I've already seen that I know I like, but for some reason I'm gonna keep watching this instead. And that's what I did for whatever reason. So yeah, that was Cell 2016. Okay, and then the next favorite thing that I also have thoughts on is God Is 2026. I loved Is God Is up until the end. Spoilers. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Is God Is written and directed by Alicia Harris. Stars Carey Young, Mallory Johnson, and Vivica A. Fox. Villain is Mr. Sterling K. Brown. Everyone in this movie acted, brought their A game. You ain't shit, dog! Yeah, they acted. there is a popular discourse and understanding, I believe, that this movie is, I believe, to be disliked because the overarching message, I guess, is that it's saying that black men are evil. I think that that is a bit reductive. If anything, if that is the point you're pulling out from it, I think it would be that the pursuit of patriarchy and the nuclear family, the classed nuclear family by any means necessary, is not a worthwhile pursuit. That's really what I think it would be getting at. But I feel like having that sort of conversation through a platform like Twitter, especially today, where for every 3 people having a discussion or an argument, there are like 7 bots intervening into that discussion or argument, it's really a moot discussion. So who knows how that would go if it were brought back to the forefront on that platform, where I think that point of view started proliferating from. I do not think, once again, spoilers, I do not think that scene should have died in the fire at the end. This whole movie points toward the idea that the nuclear family that is cut off from support and that is structured in such a way that even motherhood, that is one of the parents, is at the behest of the other parent, that is the patriarch, the father, fatherhood in general. The movie points toward the idea that these 2 girls could forge a new path, and that Scene's anger is veering towards some sort of righteous. But instead of seeing that all the way through to a logical endpoint where she and her sister can forge a new path, the movie decides that she is just like her daddy, which is also why I think the idea that, oh, it's just black men are evil, because what it really would be saying is that anger is not justified, because if the black daddy, the man, was evil, then the daughter was evil too, since she died in the fire with him, right? It doesn't follow this idea to what I thought was going to be his logical conclusion, that he dies and they veer off into a new path where they decide that there is some new structure that does not follow this hierarchical, triangle, that maybe they would go back to God herself and also say, I cannot do your bidding any longer, if it comes out of this hierarchical structure either. Something like that. It like Scene she boils over, but she never gets, her anger is always met with the other sister's worry, chagrin, disavowal. But the other sister is also made to seem sort of like the one who is very spiritual. Is it more rash what Scene did than what the daddy did? And is the lesson after Scene dies to just go ahead and form a new family structure with the baby of a man who can't even look at you when y'all have penetrative sex because of your burns? I'm just so interested in the idea that the movie does all this groundwork with Scene just to kind of say she just like her daddy. So therefore, there is no righteous anger, even if the quest is from God herself. I know in the play, Anaya goes back to see God. And I believe God is surprised that she's the one that comes back. So what does the film say? That it's a revenge tale, but the survival mechanism is acting out safety all the way through. I could see people, coming to that conclusion in real life cases, because I think people do take that route in real life cases all the time. We might make decisions where we want to go the scene route, maybe not to that extent, but we want to go the scene route, and we go the Anaya route a little bit more because maybe this is happening or this is happening, or we got rent due on the 1st. But for a film that could have went there and said, bump it, there can be something different at the end of this road. And I don't know where it goes yet, but I got a message from God herself to try. Just for that story to still end with the safe option, I found that so a little bit disappointing, and in the end not completely surprising, because I don't know if Amazon MGM Studios would have let it get made if it didn't go that way. But I was just, I guess in my head, I was looking for something that would just blow this repeated effed up family open and say there's something else. There's something else. And what did safety really do? Because what did it do for God herself? What did it do for the girls at their safe office job? What did it do for Janelle Monáe's character when she decided to play it safe and play the good wife with internalized misogyny up the wazoo? What did that do? So yeah, my thought about Is God Is that I thought it was gonna, I thought it was gonna, blow something open a little bit. That's what I thought it was setting up for. That was part of the point of Sterling's greatly acted character, to help propel these girls to go get whatever it is. They might not even know what it is, but whatever it is, go get it. So that is my about the ending of Is God Is. But as for the creativity and the color grading and the mechanics on screen of the twin telepathy and all that stuff, and once again just the acting from everyone in the cast, really great stuff. Hopefully I get to talk about it with people offline in the future.